keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage, and I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares, nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario, my stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away, asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock here.
Had an awesome show last week. Make sure you catch us 5 days a week, same place, same time. Different hosts every day, but the same website, same time, ucy.tv. And if anyone wants to give us a call and talk about whatever's on your mind, feel free to give us a call and chime in on the conversation. We're not bringing up something that you think we should bring up, that's awesome too. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. The number is 718-717-8296, and feel free to join us. I mean, it's that's what this show is all about. It's about all of you that are listening, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff without you. So kind of glad just to be here and be doing our thing. So also want to do a quick shout out to UCY just for giving us this awesome venue to be out here and doing this thing. We have SM Gibson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we have Levon on Fridays. So we have a variety of different people talking about different issues, different callers every day, different things to talk about. You name it. I mean, it's just various things, and we have a bunch of different guests on the show tonight. We don't have any scheduled, so if anybody wants to call in, once again, the number is 718-717-8296. Feel free to call us, and let's talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Give me 1 second as I get my co-host on the air. DB, you there with us?
Yep, I'm here, Nick. Why don't we start with Tianjin or whatever? I mean, that explosion was ungodly.
A little bit of connectivity issue. 1 second, let me get this thing fixed. Various things, and we. Hey, DB, you there? What's going on, man?
I'm here, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, awesome. I can hear you now, man. I was having.
I'm hearing myself.
All right, cool. Sorry, I had a little bit of audio problems, but we're good. What's going on, man? How you been? We missed you last show.
Oh yeah, man, just so busy. Again, I'm still hearing myself, Nick. You hear it?
You're coming through fine on my end, man. So
I'm hearing myself. Oh no, now it's gone. I'm doing good, man. I'm just sorry I missed the last show. Just super busy up here, and fatigue, man, fatigue.
Hey, it's all good. I know everyone needs a break every now and then. We can't expect you to be on doing this new stuff day in and day out.
Oh man, it's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're gonna have a relatively open show tonight. I don't have any guests in studio with us. We do have Manny Aguilar on the line. How you doing tonight, Manny?
Doing pretty good. Busy as always. BB's talking to the choir when it comes to busy, stuff like that. I'm kind of really fired up with all my friends sending me some messages from San Diego, and there's going to be this big party September 12th, and it's going to be Ryan, Nick, Bernabe's hood, you know what I mean? Like right in your hood, you know. And I was happy to hear that one of your friends is going to be DJing, you know, stuff like that. Because it's going to be, I think it's going to be off the hook, you know, if you ask me, you know, stuff like that. And it's great to have friends from, you know, different walks of life, different diversity, whatever, you know, stuff like that, you know. So, what's up, BB? How you doing?
How's it going, Manny? Just busy as hell, that's all. Having a good time up here, though.
Well, we got plenty of news stories to go over tonight. Hopefully, we get some callers in. I don't have too much of a rigid agenda for the show tonight, but I do have another promo meme going up. We had an awesome meme or image that was sent to us today from this artist named Anthony Freda. I don't know if anyone's seen his work, but I mean, he does some controversial stuff. But it's basically a tabloid cover, but it really is a play on a lot of the current events going on. I mean, it says Bigfoot's going to run against Trump and these kind of things. I mean, it's pretty funny. But at the same time, it has a message. It kind of makes fun of the dire situation that we're in with the state of affairs right now in the U.S. and the politics that we're dealing with. Obviously, we got Trump making a show out of this whole thing. You got Hillary Clinton now, and you know, as much as I've tried to stay away from talking about Hillary Clinton and this whole email issue that is going on with her, now it's starting to get a little more serious, man. And you know, the feds are looking into her email server, and you know, she was obviously breaking the law when she was, you know, using this private server instead of using official communications and stuff. And you know, we're talking about someone that is probably basically committed felonies, and at the same time, this person is running for the highest office in the United States, and that's kind of just goes to show that we kind of elect criminals. And you know, that being said, Hillary Clinton's emails, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it should be a disqualifier.
Nick, 60 of them became classified within the first day of looking at them. I mean, if you say nothing big in them, for all we know, there was some kind of covert war ordered against Libya, and that would be a big deal.
That's true, man. That's exactly what I wanted to bring up, is this whole, you know, fiasco with Libya. And that's really the big story with Hillary Clinton, is that, you know, she's being sold by the media as, you know, this is some kind of progressive person and, you know, women's rights and this sort of thing. But, you know, policy-wise, Hillary Clinton doesn't differ very much from George Bush. She's actually more dangerous than George Bush because, you know, she's the kind of person that can get away with a lot more shit than Bush did. I don't think Hillary is going to win the presidency because I think it's going to be a Republican. But, you know, the thing is that she's done some really horrible things and caused the loss of life to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the Middle East and in the Muslim world and you know, all over the place. I mean, in fact, I read
Libya is still going, Nick.
Libya is still a failed state. I mean,
it's still in a civil war because Benghazi and Tripoli are not even close to being in agreement for anything. And one side's the historic capital and the port city, and the other one's the oil hub. So, I mean, these guys don't want to share the vast riches of Libya.
Exactly, man. And you know, I saw an article recently about what's going on in Libya, and I mean, it's just fallen into complete and utter chaos to the point where, you know, there's basically, it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. And you know, the U.S. recently dropped another airstrike in Libya. So, you know, keep in mind, we overthrew that government in 2011 on Obama and Hillary's watch. I mean, they gave the orders. It was actually it was opposed by the Congress at the time. They went ahead and did it anyway. And you know, Gaddafi wasn't a saint, but at the same time, he wasn't a despot as bad as they are in Saudi Arabia. I mean, he shared the country's wealth. He shared the resources. The Libyan people, prior to 2011, they had the highest standard of living in the entire continent of Africa. The median income was almost as high as it is in the U.S. I mean, the people there were living a decent life. Gaddafi was a dictator, yes. He did some, you know, he was a strong man, just like Saddam Hussein. But that situation was better than what they have now, which is a civil war, you know, tribal power grabs. It's more or less.
And that's the biggest rift, Nick, is because Gaddafi was essentially, a nomadic tribesman, and he united all those guys, and then basically they swept him into power. And as soon as he was gone, there was a power vacuum, not only in government, but then outside of government, out in the deserts, the tribes basically were like, hey, we kind of know what's going on. And that's the main thing, Nick. Now there's rebels that are all the tribes are uniting to try to take out these twin mega cities that are kind of trying to run everything.
Yeah, and it's just a constant power struggle now in Libya, and Hillary Clinton was in a very big way responsible for it, and it kind of is all part of this project for a new American century, which a lot of people don't know about. But this is the foreign policy ideology that Bush lived by, and all of his advisors kind of cooked this stuff up. It's a neoconservative foreign policy kind of directive, which calls for overthrowing a bunch of these countries in the Middle East to maintain the U.S.'s hegemony over top of the oil and by default the petrodollar. And there's only one country left that hasn't fallen under this, and that's Iran. Basically, they've gotten everyone else. There were 7 countries that were lined up to get overthrown. Obama took care of about 6 of them, and he hasn't done Iran. And it almost seems like Obama is going back on the Iran thing. But here's the problem. We know all this about Hillary, and I just informed everybody about the Project for a New American Century. Now, if you look back at that first Republican debate and you look back at what Marco Rubio said, you'll remember his very last line was getting America, turning it into the new American century. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that Rubio is now the next anointed person to carry the torch, which was the George Bush doctrine, the neoconservative foreign policy. Hillary Clinton, if by chance she were to get elected, she would be the one to carry that torch. But she has so much baggage, and just this email thing is basically going to render her unelectable. And so that's probably not going to happen. So it's going to probably be Rubio, and I hate to predict things like this because I don't like being right about these horrible things. I know everybody out there listening that still buys into the two-party stuff is probably rooting, the actual people that actually pay attention are probably rooting for Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders. That Bernie Sanders is actually making some headway, man. I don't know if anyone saw it, but he now has...
He led the New Hampshire polls. He beat Hillary 44-37.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now he's pulled ahead in New Hampshire, so he actually is making some headway. But again, Bernie Sanders is, as much as I like the things that he says, his anti-corporate attitude and stuff. Of course, it's almost a similar platform to what Obama was running on back in 2008, and we kind of saw what happened with that. Not saying that Bernie Sanders doesn't have good intentions. But if he does get elected, he's going to have to play ball, and it's kind of just the fact of life when it comes to U.S.
Exactly.
Well, he'll raise taxes up to European levels, but that's fine as long as we get all the free stuff. We're already paying European levels when you consider income, sales. You have a tax on getting a driver's license. You get taxed every single day of your life in every way. So don't think we're not already at 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's why I'm with Manny, and I'm voting for Pedro.
Exactly. One of the things I want to say, though, it's the people in the United States have been brainwashed. Now there's a guy that just got brainwashed also that I happen to like, and I'm wondering, man, what the hell's he doing? Jesse Ventura endorses Donald Trump, and now he wants to run, be his inmate. It's like, what's up with Jesse Ventura? What the hell happened to him,
Well, hopefully he'll rub off on Trump even if they don't win, and then Trump is going to become a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, man, that'd be funny. Jesse Ventura, I like him on some things, and he was always this independent guy and all that. And, I don't know what the hell he was thinking endorsing Trump. That was just insane. But besides all that stuff, the politics, keep in mind the Hillary Clinton, the email scandal, it's just that's the most superficial scandal with Hillary Clinton. It goes so much deeper. I saw an article the other day that also said, there's basically not a war that Hillary Clinton didn't vote for. When she was in the Senate, and then when she was in the Obama administration, she basically supported every foreign policy action that went on that involved bombing another country. So Hillary Clinton is not a progressive. She's not anti-war. She's not anything that the Democrats claim to stand for. Bernie Sanders is the guy that, stands for the stuff that the Democrats claim to stand for. Unfortunately, the media is not really going to give him the light of day because they don't want to hear his anti-corporate message getting out there on the airwaves, because we got to keep in mind.
Wow, I can't believe what I'm hearing, Nick. What? Did you just come out as a Democrat?
No, hell no. So the thing you got to keep in mind about the corporate media and the way that they're going to treat anybody that challenges the status quo is that, the corporate media is owned by these 6 mega corporations, but then those mega corporations have shareholders that are part of other corporations. Many of them are defense contractors, General Electric, Lockheed Martin, all these other guys. They don't want to have this message get out there, whether it's coming from an anti-war message from Rand Paul or an anti-corporate message from Bernie Sanders. The corporate media is not going to let that see the light of day. Therefore, Bernie Sanders isn't going to be given a fair chance, and they are going to try to feed Hillary Clinton down the pipeline. And if Hillary Clinton proves to be, if this email scandal blows up too hard, well, then look for them to push someone else out there like, the vice president right now. I mean, they might throw that guy in there for the right, even though there's not a chance in hell he's going to win either. But that's all part of the game. I mean, they're not trying. The Democrats aren't going to win this election. They're not trying to win it. If they were trying to win the election, they'd be pushing Bernie Sanders to the top. But
they're gonna make McCain a political patsy. I don't know if you saw, but he got run off Navajo land, and he's gonna start getting slammed. I can already see it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, we're going to talk.
Yeah, Anti-Media did a great article on that today, actually.
Yeah, we had a great article on that today. Jake, did you read it?
Yeah, I did. You reported it. You reported it well before, like, a whole bunch of other. I saw it, and then I saw you guys report it, and then I saw 100 other people reporting it right after you, after you did.
Yeah, man, it's a really
it's awesome. Actually, frankly, it's just that's what should happen when politicians show up to places they've decimated or helped to decimate or are part of the system, and they show up expecting some kind of laudits or they expect to be heralded in and to use it as a photo opportunity. It's disgusting, and it's fucking it's really awesome what. What they did to chase him off the land. Is it exaggerated though? I would really like to know, was he really chased? Is there a picture of John McCain literally running? I'd love to know details like that, but
yeah, they chanted him out of there. They chanted him out. And
they lifted him up and carried him out. Yeah.
The thing is, they're getting a jump on this TPP thing, right? Soon federal land's going to be up for grabs. Who's going to buy that?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, here's the thing. A lot of people reported on this story kind of superficially, but Derek Bros covered it for the Anti-Media, and as everyone knows out there that knows Derek, he covers things really in depth. And he kind of got down to why it is that these people were mad at John McCain. And so I want to talk about that. I have an excerpt here in the article on the Anti-Media from Mint Press News. But basically it goes, the Apache stronghold formed in December in response to a last-minute legislative provision included in the 2015 NDAA. The provision at issue is the annual Defense Department funding bill grants Resolution Copper Mining, a subsidiary of an international mining giant known as Rio Tinto, a 2,400-acre land parcel which includes parts of the Tonto National Forest, protected national forest in Arizona, where it will create the continent's largest copper mine. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied tonight. Meanwhile, the land on these 24 acres, a lot of that land is considered sacred land by the Native Americans, including the Apache and the Navajo. And so basically what happened was McCain was the guy that really set this deal up, and he slipped it in the NDAA at the last minute. And so it basically just went through without debate. And it was basically just another backdoor deal where McCain had a buddy that probably financed his campaign, and they own this giant mining corporation. And they said, hey, bro, there's a bunch of copper over there in those hills where you guys, kind of, dumped the Native Americans in there, where you probably at the time thought it was shitty land with no resources. And this is this is a recurring topic. We're gonna touch on that, another topic about this that we covered last week as well. But yeah, it looks like McCain basically went in and said, okay, I don't give a shit if it's protected sacred land. Let's sell it off to these mining companies. They gave me $100,000 in campaign contributions. I don't know how much they gave him exactly, but it's hard to tell. But this is obviously basically what happened, and so this is why a lot of these natives are really mad at John McCain. So a lot of the news stories I saw covering it were just kind of like, oh, they chased him out. We don't know why, or we're not going to say why. But this is
right.
This is corruption, dude. This is collusion.
That's what's cool that Derek broke it to actually explain what it is he did. Because yeah, you're right. A lot of it gets lost in not a good explanation of like why he got chased. It almost sounds like the headlines try and make it sound like a spectacle, which benefits the mainstream media. This idea of the spectacle, like the natives chased off the politician. The reality is no, there's very like legitimate reasons, recent reasons that Derek Rose went over in the article as to why they're doing that. I mean, it's civil disobedience at its finest.
Exactly, man. And this also goes back to a story we covered in depth last week regarding the spill into the Animas River in Colorado. And that also contaminated Navajo waters and land. And, it put again, as we started researching it, we started realizing, well, they put the Native Americans in these wastelands, more or less, back a long time ago when they made the reservations, because they figured, okay, there's useless land, it can't be farmed, blah, blah, blah. Then they realized, oh, there's uranium in that land. Let's go mine it out of there, make nuclear bombs, and let's go make a bunch of nuclear reactors out of it. And so we're going to go in and just mine all this land for uranium, pollute the whole place, leave the Native Americans with a jacked up a jacked up environment, and then stick the bill and the cost to the EPA and make the taxpayer pay for it to clean it up. And that's just another example of Native American people getting the short end of the stick, whether it be from corporate mining companies or the federal government. Either way, I mean, they constantly, over and over, the Native American people, which are the indigenous people to North America, South America, constantly they're short end of the stick. Not only in the U.S. but also in Canada, in Mexico, in South America, everywhere they're getting screwed over.
It's a tragedy. If anyone wants a good book to get started on that subject, if you feel like you don't know very much about it, or like you want to know more about it, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee is a fantastic book for, kind of absorbing, trying to start the process of absorbing how much a genocide has actually gone on. And you hear about it a lot in memes and on Facebook and whatnot, but it is very much real. I recommend Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. It's a great place to start for kind of trying to understand like what our government has actually done to, the peoples on this continent, and it's worth reading.
Yeah, I posted it.
Awesome, man. Great recommendation. Now let's stick to this environment stuff, because we've had a lot of stories coming out on environmental issues, and there was a story that we got picked up from the what's it called? The Desert Sun, I think it's called. It's a local news service out here in Southern California. I think it's out in the San Bernardino Desert. It's called the Desert Sun. And this is a story about Nestle, and one of our awesome journalists, Claire, did a really good investigation into what's going on over there. Now, I'm sure everyone is probably familiar by now with Nestle and the fact that they're kind of draining California's fresh water supplies during this horrible drought that's going on. And this article really sheds some light on the extent of what is actually happening, because it's not like Nestle just showed up and just started jacking everybody's water. That's not exactly the case. What it actually is going on over there out here in the Southern California desert, where they're taking all this water, is it turns out that the Forest Service is basically been, I mean, we haven't found the direct corruption yet, but what we're finding out here is that their permit expired in 1988, which was almost 25 years ago, and they've been paying $500 a year to extract 26 million gallons of fresh water from the California desert. Now, if anybody thinks that seems okay...
Don't worry, Nick. Those black plastic balls will fix it.
Oh, in L.A., yeah. Oh, man. Hey, they don't reflect any sunlight back.
Hey, they disrupt your hormones.
World peace. World peace.
Yeah.
One
We're wondering about that up here now.
One reservoir isn't going to have, some water evaporated for it. We're saved.
But it'll sure lower the birth rates.
Yeah, we're wondering about that up here,
Yeah, we wrote an article about that. I mean, it's up for interpretation.
Polyurethane, come on, man.
I actually
Hot
think it's really
plastic
cool,
leaching into the water, and they're not going to filter that, dude. They're not.
I heard someone else saying that today. Because I was exalting the story, and someone else said, "Yeah, well, what about all the chemicals leaching into the water?" And I immediately, in a panic, rushed to Google and tried to find out. It actually looks like it helps with chemicals. It looks like it actually subsumes a lot of carcinogens and algae that are in the lake naturally.
But you can filter that stuff, Jake. It's hard to filter out the leached plastic.
Good point.
And I guess
we'll just see each other in hell, DB.
Nah, man. I mean, what I'm saying is they're going to come up with these schemes and make it seem like it's for the good. And if you know any basic science, that becomes a hormone disruptor. So, bam, we save a little water, stop a bunch of births.
I mean, you don't. I mean, look, I'm down to agree with you, but you have to first prove that the thing is happening that you're claiming, which is that there's toxic plastic leaking into the water.
And I'm sure it either will or it won't. I know. But
if it's a corporation doing it, I would assume it's toxic. But the government, I mean, they're so sloppy that they probably meant it to be toxic, but failed to make it toxic.
All plastic that's
to me,
hot,
that's the difference
toxic.
between corporations and government. They both want to kill you. One's just really bad at it. And that's the
corporations want you to live a long time. That way you keep buying their crap.
Right, exactly. No,
but the government actually makes money every time someone with a birth certificate dies.
The government needs for the population to be sustained and okay and feeding into the system. Corporations need you to actually be alive. So trust the corporations. They want to keep you alive for just 10 years longer. They'll feed you OxyContin in the meantime. So don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, as long as you're 11.
We're gonna go into that too, but all right, I'm gonna finish this Nestle thing. Before I do that, the plastic balls, they've been using them for years now, actually, in LA, and so far there hasn't been any negative signs from health from it.
How do you know?
But again, it's we still have to wait for the long-term research and all that stuff. I give it credit for being a creative.
Me too.
Innovative.
Why not put solar panels over the canals where most of the actual evaporation takes place?
Exactly. That would be even smarter. But now back to this Nestle thing, because this thing really makes me kind of mad. And I'm really glad that it got some traction on Reddit, because it didn't do that well otherwise on Facebook. But we got on the front page it made it to the very top of Our Politics, and it got a lot of people reading it. But one of the biggest things to me that stands out about this Nestle story is that there's this guy named Zimmerman, and he was in charge of the Forestry Service during most of the time when he oversaw Arrowhead's permit. Arrowhead is a company owned by Nestle. I'm sure everyone in Southern California has seen Arrowhead Spring Water. It's a company that's owned by Nestle. And there was this one guy named Zimmerman. He was the head of the local Forest Service at the time, and he oversaw this permit expiring, and he let it expire, but he just kept charging Nestle $500 a year. Now, here's the problem. Last time Nestle negotiated this contract was back in the 70s. Now, if you think back to, even in my childhood in the 90s, we really didn't have much for bottled water. You drink water at water fountains, or you drink the tap water. Either that, or maybe you had the big, water dispenser thing at your house. But there wasn't a bunch of little bottles of water going around everywhere like there are now. Now it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry in the U.S. And especially back in the 70s, it was pretty much non-existent. Yeah, they bottled water for big tanks and things like that, but they weren't selling retail bottles of water, and it definitely wasn't worth what it is now. back in the 70s, maybe it was worth $500 a year to let them take out millions of gallons of water. But now that's just ridiculous because you can't even go to the store and buy a 20-ounce bottle of Nestle for less than $1. You know what I mean? These guys are paying 0.0001 cent per gallon of this stuff, and then they're gouging us at the price. Now, here's the thing that really makes me mad. This same Zimmerman guy, he's overseeing this contract. He's making a bunch of excuses for Nestle. The Desert Sun, through a FOIA request, was able to get some of this guy's communications, and they're able to expose this working relationship that this Zimmerman dude had with Nestle. In fact, they donated to his nonprofit plenty of times. I mean, I wouldn't doubt if they bought the guy a boat and other shit like that. We haven't proved that yet, but I seriously wouldn't doubt it. But here's the thing that really made me mad. The guy retired in 2003, and then guess where he started working at in 2005? Nestle,
Where?
Of course. He went from the Forestry Service. 2 years later, now he's working at Nestle, or he's working.
That was just chocolate, Nick.
Yeah, he's just enjoying the good, chocolate, I guess. But yeah, so basically what we're seeing here once again is another act of collusion between Nestle and the Forestry Service. They find the guys that are in charge, they bribe them, they corrupt them, whatever they do to them. They donate to their nonprofits. And then they just jack everybody for our water. And then they go, and then the government goes around, they fine you $500 for watering your lawn during the day. And then they charge Nestle $500 a year to take 26 million gallons of water. That is pristine,
Well, it's a corporatocracy, man. That's what we live in, is a corporatocracy.
Exactly. And this is just, it just makes me really mad. We have another article. It's a 2-part article. It's going to be coming out sometime this week. Now, what's cool is that because of this article going big on Reddit, somebody that is actually down there on the ground that is involved in trying to oppose Nestle jacking all this water has now contacted us, and so they're gonna be involved in our next article, and we're gonna have a lot of really exclusive information regarding Nestle and their relationship with the Forestry Service.
Cool.
That is probably going to piss some people in high places off. So
That's awesome.
Keep an eye out for that this week. We should be making some waves. Now, one last little caveat here with this permitting thing. Now, this Zimmerman guy, he made a bunch of excuses, and he's like, the reason we didn't renew the permit for Nestle is just such a hassle, to do it. We don't have the resources or the manpower to make to take care of the permit, But unfortunately for him, that's just not the case, because if we look at what the Forestry Service did during those times. Sorry, I had to drop that call from 218 because I was getting some feedback. If you look at the time when they said that they couldn't renew this permit, well, guess what? They renewed a bunch of permits for people that own cabins in that area. In fact, they took a bunch of people that own cabins that were only, keep in mind, if you own a cabin, you're maybe taking like, a couple hundred gallons a week, because most people don't live in cabins full time. They probably go out and visit once a month at most. So the Forest Service said, people that own cabins up in these mountains, sorry guys, we can no longer allow you to take water because we're in a drought. But at the same time, they're allowing Nestle to take 26 million gallons. So once again, it's kind of a case of the Forestry Service and the government at large screwing the little guy, while at the same time handing everything over to Nestle and the corporations in the meantime.
I think the last time somebody even checked too, it was like 4% of water use was by people, just regular people. 96% was agriculture and business.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of
that's a huge use of it is animal agriculture. So until we deal until we deal with meat consumption, we're going to be screwed water-wise. People are just going to have to deal with that.
We're just basically fucked it.
So we got a few callers. We got a few callers.
I don't even know, man. I'm just so tired. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, let's meet up. I'd like some of what you've had.
All right.
I didn't have anything, man. I'm just tired.
317.
What? So hey, if I may chime in, what point did you agree with, and what would you like to elaborate on?
What?
Nah? No? Okay. Nick,
No,
back to
you're
you.
fine.
All right, caller from 217. Is there anything you wanted to add to this conversation about Nestle, or what do you want to talk about?
I think it's just pathetic that they're able to do that, and then the government saying that the people can't just get fucking regular water because they're saying it's a fucking drought. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, man. We're gonna have to move on to this next story. Feel free to continue listening to the show. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's crazy. It's hypocritical. The governor signed an executive order saying, "Hey, all you people in the public in California, you got to cut back." Meanwhile, we're just going to keep letting these other guys get away with it, more or less. The people that are actually using most of the water. Then they started giving out a bunch of these rebates for people that want to replace their grass with sod.
Hey.
And coincidentally, the richest. I saw a report the other day that showed that the people that are getting all these rebates from the government to replace sod and to cut back on their water use, all these rich dudes from Rancho Santa Fe and San Diego, literally the richest zip code in San Diego, they're getting 40% of the rebates from the government for cutting back on water. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And you know,
their gardeners recommended it.
Yeah, I'm sure their gardeners wanted them to replace their grass with sod. Oh, man. So I got another story that we're going to jump into. Jake, I wanted to get your opinion on, which is the OxyContin thing, man. And that's the thing that DB brought up a little bit ago. It's kind of crazy because they're now allowing OxyContin to be prescribed to kids between the ages of 11 and 16. I mean, this to me just sounds like a bad idea all around. Now, don't get me wrong. In very rare occasions, I'm sure it's needed. I'm sure these kids need OxyContin because they're in a shitload of pain. But if you look at the current trends with the amount of abuse of these kind of opioid prescription drugs, there's a massive rate of addiction. There's a massive rate of overprescription. And Jake, I wanted to get your opinion on it because you've written about this topic pretty extensively in the past. What do you think?
Yeah. Thank you. I think it's. I don't know if I read about it in the article on the Anti-Media, or if I read it elsewhere. But I read a whole story about a kid who was like, I don't know, basically starting from the age of when he was like 11 to basically 16. Maybe even earlier than that. I think that's the age range you listed. But he had some massive. Look, there are reasons people need heavy painkillers. If you're in heavy pain, for the most of humanity, we haven't had those kinds of things. And look, if you're in a whole lot of pain, you don't want to be in a lot of pain. So it's good to have pain medication. But this kid, basically was systematically hooked on these drugs. And he then, the story was basically he uses cannabis to counteract this addiction. I mean, it's horrifying, frankly. Yeah, I've written about it, and I have personal experience with family members who can testify to it. I mean, we live in a drug-addicted heroin culture, and maybe not just heroin, but also Adderall. But hard drugs are being prescribed at will. It's very easy to get. Trust me, I know. I know, and most people out there know what I'm talking about. How easy it is to get prescribed. Basically, an amphetamine or a painkiller, and these are extremely addictive things. And when you take them a lot, you get addicted to them. And doctors are handing these prescriptions out at the behest of corporations, and it's a huge problem. Tons of publications are writing about it now. It's all coming out. We've been bamboozled again. First time it was by cigarettes, and now it's just by the pharmaceutical companies getting money from us to fuel addictions. Only these addictions kill you very quickly, and that's why the death rate of people from opiate-related pharmaceutical drugs has risen dramatically within the last 10 years. It's a major problem. Most everyone listening probably knows someone that has an addiction to amphetamines or painkillers. So.
Yeah, man, and the rates have been blowing up. It's been like a 300% increase in prescription of these. And we've covered this topic pretty extensively on the anti-media. There's also been studies that have shown that a lot of people that are now hooked on heroin first started off by abusing prescription drugs, prescription opioids, and then when they get pulled off the drugs, then they start having to find it on the black market, finding it, buying heroin to get their fix. I had a personal friend of mine that had an injury. He got prescribed OxyContin. They pulled him off it. Then he became a heroin addict. Then he got caught. Then he went to jail. Now his life is pretty much in shambles because of it. And as you mentioned, Jake, I mean, there are people that legitimately need this stuff. And then there's also another good portion of the prescriptions that are just doctors turned drug peddlers.
Yeah, that's what we need doctors for, isn't it? It's like, I thought that's what doctors were for, is to make that determination of when someone actually needs something and when they're actually just taking. And most of these doctors, they're not like directly taking money from pharmaceutical companies. That's actually like not true. But the hospitals get funding from these companies, and I wrote an article a while back, and I can't remember the amount of money, but it's a startling amount of money that is spent directly from pharmaceutical companies to hospitals and facilities and doctors in order to push certain drugs. And there's actually an article trending right now. If you look up Koch Brothers OxyContin, I don't know what the exact story title is, but it's basically about how maybe it's not Koch Brothers, but it's a very rich, one of the richest families in the world, in America, made all their money off OxyContin. So basically, like, one specific, like, family corporation, like, made a fortune off OxyContin, killing hundreds of people in the process, thousands of people, actually. And they'll never be held accountable to that, which is sad.
Yeah, man. And now, from the article on the anti-media called "The FDA Just Approved OxyContin to be Prescribed for Children," you guys can go read along with us if you want. It's still on the front page of the anti-media. In 2010 alone, 16,600 people died from opiate overdoses, prescription opiate overdoses. And it made up 60% of all overdose deaths. And this is back in 2010, and it's gotten worse since then. Now,
government funded, though.
4 out of 5 heroin addicts started off on prescriptions. I already mentioned that. But this kind of feeds into a big trend of just over-medicating our youth. We had another article that was posted in September of last year on the anti-media about how we have 10,000 toddlers in the U.S. And by toddlers, we're talking about like 2, 3, 4-year-old kids.
That article is shocking.
There's 10,000 toddlers in the U.S. right now that are on amphetamine-based ADHD drugs, Ritalin, things like that.
Unbelievable.
They're medicating the shit out of our kids. I remember when I was a kid, this is when I first started realizing how messed up the medical system, the healthcare system in the U.S. is. I got beat up when I was a kid by a bunch of people over some stupid thing, and I went to the doctor because I was in pain, and my neck hurt, and I told the doctor, hey, dude, check my neck, like, give me an x-ray, and the doctor's like, no, we don't need to do that. Here's this Vicodin, take this Vicodin. If it doesn't help, then come back. And it was just like, the doctor didn't really, like, take the time to really try to find out what was wrong with me. He just gave me Vicodin, which is another opioid. And then he basically said, if this doesn't work, if you still hurt, come back and let's see what happened. Now, I didn't go back because I knew, and like I took some of the Vicodin, made me feel bad, sick, so I didn't take it all. I took some, and then my stepdad stole the rest from me, whatever. But here's the thing. If I would have gone back and said, hey, this stuff doesn't work, what would he have done then? Give me an even stronger dose of drugs? Or would he have actually, gone and done an x-ray and said, oh, yeah, you have a problem. There's something wrong in your neck. And I don't even know because I didn't bother going back to find out because I lost faith in that system. And now, unfortunately, this is kind of the state of affairs with our healthcare system. That's the status quo. Of course, there's still good doctors out there that actually give a shit. But the status quo in our healthcare system is a pretty bleak situation. And they just throw pills at people. You come in, you see the doctor, okay, take these pills, come back, tell me if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll give you something.
Called capitalism, consumerism, capitalism. They want you to continue consuming just so that you can keep coming back. I mean, once they get you hooked, that's it. Like, what are you gonna do? You're hooked. And I mean, it's no wonder the government decided to invade Afghanistan, and Global Research put out the articles. You know, now they're like completely in charge of the entire opiate production of the entire world after never having even really had more than 1% of the world's production. Now they control it. And who controls Afghanistan? We do. Corporate does. The United States government does. I mean, it all plays into just little pawn schemes, and you can just see it all from just taking a step back, looking at the big picture, and seeing what's going on. It's not a single guess. It's just plainly obvious. I've got cousins that have ADHD, and I mean, sure, they can get a little bit hectic sometimes, but my family hates to put them on medication, because the moment you put them on medication, they don't want to eat, they don't want to talk, they look depressed as shit, and I mean, it's just really sad.
It changes people too. Like it changes their, like, people need to understand it's like an amphetamine. It's like permanently like disrupting people's brains, and you need to be, and some people actually need it, and like it, you know, but it's a very harsh solution to a very complex problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Caller from 956, I'm glad you called in, and thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to jump into that too, about, you know, the only reason why we have all these opiates around is because we went out to Afghanistan and secured all that shit, because the Taliban was trying to get rid of it. In fact, the Taliban had almost eradicated it by 2001. And now, as of current times, the opium production in Afghanistan, since the U.S. overthrew the government and invaded 2001, 2002, 2001, it's up exponentially. Yeah. I mean, now they're producing.
That was a major part of the. That was a major. I mean, you talk about the natural gas pipeline. Opium security was another major part of it.
Exactly, and now every year it seems like Afghanistan is setting records for the opium produced. I've talked to people that were in the military that were over there that dealt with the opium fields, and I'll tell you one thing that they never really did is destroy opium fields. They didn't do that. They secured them, they fought for them, and then they left, and then they were secured by private contractors, and then no one really got to see them after that. And so, you know, we all kind of know what happened. Those pharmaceuticals got shipped, from what I heard, to Germany, I'm guessing to Bayer, the big giant pharmaceutical company in Europe, and they manufacture all these, you know, opiate drugs, OxyContin, all that stuff, and then they send them over here. So yeah, that was a very major part of what goes on. And you know,
I would recommend like putting out an article, like just so that people understand really what's going on, because I know I've seen like memes and other articles talking about the high rise of deaths by opiates in the United States, but nobody's really seen any article contributing to pulling both of these two facts together. How the American government.
Search the anti-media site. Trust me, the anti-media has put out multiple articles on the connection between the drug war and opiates. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a huge issue.
It is, and people need.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Jake, you mentioned a kid that was using cannabis to fight back against the opiate addiction. There was a study that recently came out from the National Bureau of Economic Research that showed that states that have legalized cannabis have seen a drop in opiate addiction, painkiller addiction. So it kind of goes to show that people can use cannabis, which of course is federally illegal, to help get themselves off of, you know, painkiller addiction, opiate addiction. So, you know, the major hypocrisy that we can see from this whole scenario is that OxyContin is completely legal. It carries a huge percentage of the overdose deaths, which have now, prescription drug overdoses have now far outpaced all illegal overdoses combined. Yet OxyContin is completely legal and cannabis is federally illegal. So it's a major hypocrisy. But this is also another story we've covered on the anti-media. The title of it's called "How an Illegal Drug is Reducing Prescription Painkiller Addiction," and that's just a whole other angle that people should look into, because once again, cannabis can really, in many different ways. We've seen it with all these recent studies about how it helps kids with seizures. There was one that we covered the other day, how it actually helps you heal broken bones. I didn't believe it at first, but then I looked into it. It's a legitimate study. Cannabis can be used for a lot of different things. And if you follow the money about who's trying to keep the drug war alive, well, it's not surprising to find out that it's a lot of these big pharmaceutical companies that are lobbying to keep cannabis illegal because they're worried about their bottom lines, man. They're not worried about saving people's lives, contrary to maybe it's not popular belief anymore. But yeah, pharmaceutical companies aren't out there trying to save the world and make everyone healthy. That'd be a conflict of interest. That would hurt their profits, and it's kind of like the whole thing with cancer. It's like, do they really want to cure cancer? Because if they did, well, there goes a multi-billion-dollar industry for them. These guys really aren't in the business of making people better. They're in the business of getting people hooked on this shit, because then they got customers for life, and that's what they want.
Yeah, man, you're right.
So I want to keep going on. Caller from 956. You're welcome to stay on the line here, man. I really.
Can we talk about Tianjin, Nick?
Yeah, man, we could talk about that. That's a pretty interesting thing. We put out a.
I think we should talk about pharmaceutical drugs some more.
A little more?
It's a little less scary, I guess.
Tianjin's a pretty complicated thing. We put out an article on the anti-media, also by Derek Bros, kind of calling into question this big explosion. If anybody hasn't seen the video, I recommend you see it, because it is a huge explosion. And it comes at a pretty, questionable time. You got the BRICS nations. You got kind of, for the same reasons.
Currency devaluation, too. Don't forget that.
Exactly. For the same reason that Libya and Gaddafi were overthrown, these are the same kind of reason. These are the same moves that China and Russia have been making with BRICS and, challenging the petrodollar and things like that. So we put out an article by Derek Bros, calling into question the official story on, with that explosion in China. And so, all we're being told right now is what's coming from Western media. And all that Western media has is what's coming from Chinese media. Now, we all know Chinese media is basically completely controlled. All of their media, all of China's media is state-run media. They don't even have any independent media out there. So, obviously, the official story coming out is most likely either being only part of the story, or it's being completely fabricated. It's hard to say. But also the other thing to keep in mind is that China's stock market almost collapsed only a month and a half, 2 months ago. So that's a whole other side of this thing, and it really does come at a peculiar time. So DB, what do you think is up with this explosion in China?
Tit for tat. I mean, just from what I've been reading, I've gone down the wormhole on this and looked at some of Henry Kissinger's stuff that he wrote 30 years ago. And him and Brzezinski have always said, China's got so many people and they have more resources of value than the U.S. does, since we've basically used all of ours. The only thing we really have left is military responses to any kind of provocation. And, let's look at the video and see the explosion, and that is not a chemical explosion. That is something with tremendous force. It was probably a weapon, and it was probably something cutting edge, and we probably used it.
Now, one of the points that Derek made in his article is that China has this Tianhe-2 supercomputer, which is known as the fastest computer in the world, and it can just compute on a massive scale. People have suspected that they're using this computer to hack into U.S. government mainframes and hack into our servers. And there's been a lot of news lately about the IRS hack and the federal government hack, and our government's getting hacked all over the place. It's all being blamed on China, which, true or not, doesn't really matter. One of the things that is pretty interesting here is that Intel was going to supply China with the chip technology to improve and make this computer even faster. but the federal government stepped in and said, hey, no, Intel, you're not selling them the chips. It's just not going to happen. And so, this is another angle that is pretty interesting to look at. There's been a cyber war going on between the East and the West for a long time now. And, we've got all the proxy wars going on in Ukraine and elsewhere, which could also be, kind of, be tangled in with this. It's a very complicated scenario, and it's very little information is known because most of the information, like I said, is coming from either Chinese state media or it's being reported by the AP. Can't trust the AP to tell the truth. So it's a really big topic. Jake, what do you think about this explosion?
I have 3 words for you, man. Wag the dog. Like, anything we see in our political environment, it could easily be manufactured. The Wag the Dog refers specifically to a movie made in the 90s starring Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman, and they basically fabricate a geopolitical event that allows the administration to create a narrative. If you haven't seen Wag the Dog, I heavily recommend it. It's very instructive for a lot of what's going on right now, and it makes you question pretty much anything you see in the news.
Jake, you took the heat off Hillary.
Yeah, well, good. She's not going to be the nominee, so she should just chill out.
Well, not only that, but I mean, if it leads down the rabbit hole like people think, she may even be in cahoots, if you know what I mean. She may be selling state secrets.
Yeah, man, it's hard to see.
Yeah, well, if you look that's a weird...
Jake, next time you come over, man, we got to watch that Wag the Dog because I actually haven't seen it.
Oh my God, man! You are going to lose your mind when you see this movie. It basically predicts everything that happened in post 9/11.
Oh man, now I'm really interested. I did want to get the thoughts from the caller from 956 on this explosion. If you heard about it, what do you think about what's going on over there?
I saw the video, and yeah, of course, it's not anywhere near any type of chemical, explosion. That's just a complete farce that they're coming up with. And honestly, there's a very big possibility that it might have been this, close to a near fabrication as there was in 9/11 for pure economic interest. Because the point that you made about China's economy falling, just last month, I mean, that made national news. Everybody knew that. International news, And so for something like this to happen all of a sudden just, kind of makes you question, was there some assets or some sort of insurance that, that maybe, just maybe, if that place had exploded, someone was going to get a buttload of money. And the other thing that I might think about is like Fukushima and the whole radioactive, everything there for the most part is now radioactive. There's radiation all over the place. If this place has chemicals all over it, now you've just contaminated 2 big areas. So my 2 things that I might think about this are that it was for the economic interest of China, or that it could have been a covert operation conducted by U.S. intelligence to sabotage China and make it an unlivable area.
Yeah, man, great points. The other thing that also happened was that supercomputer was shut down after the explosion. It was shut down. I've seen other speculation saying that China is at least being, opportunistic and using this to crack down on dissidents and crack down on media and things like that. I don't know. It's really up for debate. Again, we have very limited sources on this. Anything that comes out of China, it's going to be very biased in one way or the other. There's no telling what really happened. We're coming up to the end of the show, though, and I just want to get a couple more quick points out there before we move on. There's another story on the anti-media about this researcher that he's a GMO researcher named Kevin Folta. He claims to be an independent researcher. We just found out that he's getting paid 25 G's from Monsanto. Keep an eye on that. People that claim to be independent scientists.
What a douche!
We always got to look into that. McCain thing is huge. Keep an eye out for that. Plenty of other stories out there on the website. Check us on Wednesday, same time.
Buenas noches, guys. Hasta mañana.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.